Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we review movie trilogies and their long-awaited fourth installment in an attempt to uncover if this recent edition obeys the rules or if it reaps the consequences. I am your host, the proverbial Baba Yaga himself, and joining me as always are my two stalwart servants who serve and will be of service, my Marquis Grana.
Well, it looks like we have ourselves a genuine conundrum, a quandary if you will, a real-life dilemma. Yeah, I'm Grana, that's me.
And my Harbinger Luke.
Well, I'm Mr. Nobody, and this next one goes out to you, Mr. Wick.
All right, if you didn't realise by all the wonderful words and titles and mythologizing, we're doing John Wick Chapter 4, the action blockbuster to end all blockbusters, the biggest franchise film to come out in this year, 2023. Now, look, I don't host very much. And when I do, I tend to ramble on, follow trains of thoughts that don't really have a structure or any meaning. So I'm warning you all. That's what this
strap in. Enjoy the show.
Strap in, strap on, get ready for it. It's just it's like John Wick killing people, but it's me just shouting words at the microphone.
It's like John Wick climbing stairs.
Yeah, exactly. No progress gets made, and it's just kind of sad. Now, look, we've talked at length about the original three. We have an episode on that already. I was, again, John Wick, and I was taking on you two guys with my opinions. The natural underdog who overcame all adversity. Thank you. So if you want to know about that, go back and listen to that episode. I think it was a lot of fun. It's very good.
Yeah.
Did you guys rewatch any of the original for this? Did you prep?
No, I didn't. I feel like I've watched the first one so many times. It's one of my a film that I feel like I can rewatch every year or two. 2 and 3, I feel like I've seen twice now each. And as we discussed in the trilogy review, I think that's about enough of that.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm on a very similar persuasion to Luke. Like, I don't have a huge interest to rewatch 2 and 3 again. I've seen number 1 several times, so I love it. It's great. Look, I like the other two, but a movie has to be real special for me to want to rewatch it. Like, I don't rewatch things just for no reason. I have to either have a lot of nostalgia for it, or my wife is making me do it. One of those two reasons.
What if your best friend and podcast host wants you to do it every year?
If he wanted me to do it, I would, but he never said this until right now. So
I thought it was a given. Truly, look, I have one purpose in this episode, and that is to change your people's opinions. So I'm excited.
Yeah. We've litigated that episode. We don't need to go back to it.
Oh, coming back. All right. Look, before we get into it, I want to talk about Keanu Reeves a little bit. I feel like, I feel like he is. I think we did talk about him one episode, but I feel like he's transcended another layer almost with this movie. Just in terms of his status in culture, the shorthand that Keanu Reeves is, sort of the cult around him. Like, I guess firstly, what did you guys think of his performance in this? It's much the same, but it's also very different, in my opinion. What did you guys think?
At first, I found it really jarring. Like, I think there are other people in this movie who are just chewing up scenery, and I'm really enjoying watching them act.
Yep.
I just can't say that about Keanu when he's acting.
He doesn't act.
Him saying, "I'm gonna kill them all," like, just felt really jarring amongst all these other actors who are acting their heart out. But as soon as the action starts, I don't want anyone else to be on that screen. Like, he's the man.
Yep, exactly. It's funny, like, before his first line, when Lawrence Fishburne comes in and he's punching that wooden beam very, very hard and very loud.
Very loudly in our cinema.
Very loud. I don't know if it was our cinema. That is the loudest anything has ever been in our cinema was those punches, and I was like, holy shit, this is hurting my ears. I'm like, this isn't cool.
I hope every gunshot isn't this loud, because I will be deaf by the end of this movie.
Yeah, legitimately. I was like, oh man, we're sitting too close.
Yeah.
And then there's that pause, and you know what he's going to say. And I swear there are a few people in our cinema that right before he said it were like, yeah. And then he does it, and everyone was like, yeah, he said it. And it's just like, he did the thing. It's the Simpsons meme.
It's
the thing.
Leo pointing at the screen, I mean, this is the fourth installment in a franchise, right? You know exactly what you're going to get. You come here for the Keanu-nesses. I think like that point about it being a jarring performance is really fascinating. I know I've talked ad nauseum about this, but I'm going to do it still. He's such a fascinating performer because I was thinking about his filmography and just thinking about some of the stuff that he's made and how he's made period pieces, he's made genuine dramas, but he's known for these stoic kind of blank slate performances, right? Like he's known as Neo, he's known as John Wick, he's known as Bill and Ted. Like there's all those memes around of sad Keanu and surprise Keanu. Like he's just such a fascinating actor where he kind of by bringing nothing to the table is kind of the point of him almost, and like, yeah.
Is he like a video game sort of like NPC, like the type of role playing ones where there's not much of a personality because you can see yourself as him or put
not
yourself
NPC, player character. Like
player character. Sorry, yeah.
He's the silent protagonist in a lot of ways in these movies.
Yes, these movies really lean into that a lot. Like, he's got like 3 lines in this whole film, and that's very much the point. But in the same breath, I was thinking like, there's no one else who could do this role. Like, Tom Cruise is the easy comparison. I was thinking about in terms of action stars. Keanu's 59 years old. Tom Cruise is 60. Like they're the same age. They're both doing things that no human being should be able to do, let alone man that era should.
Yeah.
Yet they're strikingly different as well. Like Tom Cruise is almost entirely his persona and his performance and like the projection of that. Keanu though, he is totally this like physicality, but he's not the acting that he does. Like, I don't know. Do you guys think that's a good trait? It's good for this movie, but do you think that this is the only stuff that he can and should do, or do you guys want to see more of him? Like, want to see him breaking out?
I just like personally, I don't know. I don't know what else he's done. I believe last time we did the John Wick thing, he's talked about this other film that he'd done. And I haven't seen it. I forget what it is now, but I don't know. I just can't see it as anything else. He was all right in the SpongeBob movie where he played a tumbleweed that was but it was just his face, video camera in the middle of it.
He was in Toy Story too, as well, wasn't he? He was
Toy Story 4.
Toy Story.
Motorcycle action star. Yeah,
he's very good in that.
I feel like he's John Wick. We didn't do a podcast on it, but Matrix 4, the new one, was very, very bad. And not due to him, it was just bad across the board. And I had no interest in that, and I forget that it exists every now and again, and I hope I can one day forget it ever existed. But he's John Wick to me. Like I don't even see Neo when I think of Keanu Reeves now. I think of him with the longer hair, with the beard. Like it's a look. It's an iconic look.
Yeah.
It's in Fortnite. Like, and that's who he is to me. It's John Wick for Keanu Reeves for me now.
I think I agree. I think he's in on it to an extent. Like he plays these kind of characters in Toy Story, and he plays a tumbleweed. And compare it, like, I don't know, before this movie for us, there was a trailer for the new Fast and the Furious movie, and I don't think Vin Diesel's in on it for himself.
No,
whereas Keanu is, and I think it really works. I don't care to see him in any period pieces or dramas. Like, give me this stoic action star because that's what he is. I like other movies that he's in, but I think he's still not that different of a character.
Yeah, like looking back through his filmography, he's had a lot of older films. Like he's just had a lot of crap. I haven't seen heaps of his movies, but he is not by any means an actor who's like got hit after hit. He is
no.
And this is the question I have. Like, it's my favorite question: is he a movie star? Is he a true quote movie star?
Yes.
Because that's the thing. I think he is, but it's so fascinating because he doesn't have a career that reflects it in a lot of ways. He's one of the few who has sort of defined 2 big franchises. Like he had The Matrix, and then he sort of had nothing for about 10 years, and then he had this, and now he's John Wick. But
yeah, he
really has sort of transcended that. Like the idea of Keanu is bigger than him in his movies. Like it's, even though like when he started dating a woman his age, people were like, "Holy crap, he's dating someone his age! What a respectable thing for actors to do."
Well, he's helping human beings. Like, look at him; he's so generous.
Exactly. It was truly like this sense of like Keanu is bigger than life, and he's kind of the perfect idea. Like you're right. I think he's totally on it. Like he just seems to make movies that either he's playing himself. Like there's that movie Always Be My Maybe where he plays Keanu Reeves as like as an alternative love interest. Like he's just And again, compared to someone like Tom Cruise, where he doesn't quite. Tom Cruise seems to be. He knows who he is, but he doesn't lean into that. He leans away from parody. I think Keanu's just kind of accepted, like exactly who he is. Yeah.
He acted more in John Wick 1 than he ever does in John Wick 4, right? Like,
very, very true.
I feel like, and not like John Wick 1's like my favorite. It's like, it's really good. But like, for him to not continue down that path and to take it way more, like less and less and less, it's almost like a weird way of him playing this character, as in just like he knows what this character's become. It's just the physicality. We don't really need to get like how many lines of dialogue? You said like he has like 3 or 4 lines of dialogue.
And I'm exaggerating, but
he has
but
more
maybe
than that,
not.
but yeah.
When you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, he said that at the start of the movie, that in the midpoint of the movie, and that thing at the end of the movie. I'm like, oh shit, that was his only lines. I kind of believe it. I'm like, yeah, he truly was just going scene to scene fighting. Like, I don't know.
There's a lot of like 2-word exchanges. A lot of he'll say a name, he'll say 2 things, and then he'll shoot them. So he probably has a lot more, but there's a long stretches of nothing from him, like no conversation. Yeah. A lot of what he says is even in other language, like he speaks Russian a bit, speaks Japanese. I think probably more than he speaks English, which is pretty funny.
But I just want to say, I think we're selling his career a little short. Point Break, huge movie. Speed franchise, huge set of movies, kind of made, in a lot of ways, was after Die Hard one of the big movies that sort of created the action movies of the 90s in a lot of ways.
That's true. Yeah.
And then obviously there's Matrix and John Wick are his other big ones, but there is just so much shit in between. Yeah. And so much of it I haven't even heard of or I know is bad. There's random movies I like A Scanner Darkly. I think that movie's weird and kind of fun.
Yeah, you look at 2003 to 2014, it is just this desert. It is just this weird pit of like interesting passion projects and small stuff no one's ever heard of. And power to him. He obviously had a lot of money and he's just like, I want to make weird films that interest me / I want to learn martial arts and do stuff that I love.
Yeah.
But it's just not the behavior you would expect of someone who's sort of as famous as he is.
It's a pretty different resume to Tom Cruise.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you feel like this lack of like acting skills from Keanu Reeves is why, like, I don't know, why there's so many colorful characters in these movies that are awesomely acted? Like Ryan said earlier, there's a lot of people in this movie that are like eating up their scenes, and it's like, oh my god, I love watching this person act. They're great. Like, yeah, do you think that adds to it that they're like, we need to fill all this other acting charisma in it to fill that void? I don't know.
There's something I don't know. There's something about these movies where I feel like they wanted all the actors to have fun with it. Like they're like, Skarsgård, do you want to do a weird French accent for this whole movie? Because you can if you want. And he's like, hell yeah. And it's just you're not going to say your R's, and it's going to have this French inflection, and it's going to be great. Like, I feel like all these people were just given the characters and like, go away with it, feel it out, and come back. Like, I feel like everybody is having fun, including Keanu. But everybody else is having fun acting. He's having fun doing stunts.
Like, I think we might disagree. I think Keanu actually is a very talented actor. And I think that's what's fascinating. Like, he's so enigmatic that people keep coming back to him and keep giving him roles. And even though the recurring joke is like he can't act, it's like he clearly can, or he wouldn't keep getting this stuff. He wouldn't have made Point Break, Speed, Matrix, and this if he couldn't do some sort of performance. Is that a performance we associate with good acting? No. But I think that speaks to sort of his craft, that he can do something with it.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's kind of like, in comedies, there's always a straight man, and then everyone else is funny, but you need the straight man to bounce it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is totally Keanu in this. He's essentially meant to be nothing but the killing. And as a result, everyone needs to be like, that leads into a surreal world where there's rules and everyone sort of knows there's this criminal underworld. So there's rules. I can't do French Cajun. And everyone needs to be exciting in that, or they can be, and they need to be, because it sort of balances it off. It's so fascinating when you've got Lawrence Fishburne giving these long monologues about being the king, and John just replies. Like, imagine if John Wick was like wisecracking; it would just be really kind of goofy.
Yeah.
But by having him just hit this wall, it's like John Wick is a rock. He is a literal rock who just crushes anything. It totally adds to the fun. Like you need the sort of the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess look, talking to speaking about his weird career though, John Wick 1, as we have talked about in the original pod, wasn't originally going to be a success. Like it was very much slated to not be. It was only a few weeks before it came out that it was going to be a direct-to-video, like a direct-to-DVD. But finally, like at the 11th hour, Lionsgate pushed and said, "No, we'll do it as a theatrical release." Goes on to be a big sleeper hit. I think we talked about in the first pod that it was a real like word of mouth that slowly spread after the fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I remember seeing the DVD on the shelf at the video store I worked at, and I was like, "Keanu's making action films again. All right, cool." And then here we are, 11 years later. Sorry, 9 years later. Like Chapter 4 made over $70 million in its opening weekend.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Like it's already worldwide, it's made more than its budget. Like it's in one weekend. This franchise has more legs. Like, does that surprise you guys that it's gone on for this long? That 4 is this successful? Do you think it should be bigger or better?
I don't think I'm that surprised after John Wick 1, right? Like, it was the big surprise. It's like, oh shit, this is actually a really good action film with a really like fun little story in it. They ballooned that out in 2 and 3 to varying success.
Oh yeah.
But I think people are invested in this franchise now. Like, and they're doing spin-offs. The Ballerina is one of them.
Ballerina with Anna Darmus.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yep. Yeah. They got the Continental series as well. Like.
Yep.
Which obviously can't talk about that without mentioning Lance Reddick. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Speaking of amazing actors that he's surrounded by.
Yeah. It was surprising that he also died on screen for us in this movie. Like, I don't know. Cynically, you could say it's a little fortuitous, but yeah, it's interesting.
Put a pin in that. There's something I want to discuss. So we will talk at length about him. But yeah, Lance Reddick passed only a week before this film's release. Huge tragedy. Still don't have a confirmed cause of death, which is interesting. A very perverse part of me is really curious to know, and we'll talk about that. So don't let me forget. And then I have a big spiel here about how these movies are some of the best action films ever. Where do you guys put this?
This pod's going to go longer than John Wick 4, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've got a lot to say. I love these movies. Look, my point is, I love action movies. I think in a lot of ways, these movies, especially number 4, are arguably some of the best action films ever made. And the reason why is they all kind of use action as a shell to tell a story. Like the first film was a revenge movie, but it's Death Wish. But instead of him just being like a man who can do it, he's a killing machine. He's a robot. He's death incarnate. The sequel is kind of like a crime tragedy, and again, it's just crazy action though. The third one is just this sort of weird survival mess. Well, no, you're wrong, but that's fine. It's a great film. And then by the fourth one, it's lost all pretense of revenge and his dog, and it's just action epic. It's Lawrence of Arabia, but with guns instead of romance. Like, I find that such a fascinating concept because we think action is a genre, but it's not. It's an easy way to understand it, but like action encompasses a whole lot. And by using it in this way, these movies make them so much more interesting than what they could have been if they didn't have the gun fu and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys think these movies are significant? Would you put these in the Mount Rushmore of action, or now that we've seen all 4?
Can there only be 4 movies in the Mount Rushmore? Is that how it works? Or 3 movies?
I
don't know how many presidents are there.
There's 4, but we put John Wick's face in there, so it's all 4 movies.
Oh, right. So it's the only movie on Mount Rushmore.
You got John McClane.
No. It's one face representing all these. Like, yeah, John McClane.
It's the 4 same faces of John Wick.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? It seems like a waste of a mountain.
And action characters? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, either franchises, characters, whichever. Like, I guess I'm thinking more and more about the future of the action genre, and like, will this redefine it? What will it look like?
I think it has already.
Absolutely. Yeah? Like, everybody has been trying to copy the John Wick gun fu.
Yeah.
To varying success. I don't know that I've seen.
Nobody's awesome.
Yeah, nobody's good.
Nobody's great, and that's just John Wick, basically, but
Yeah.
with melee. Like, it goes away from the gun combat, but you can't get away from John Wick without with watching nobody.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I remember when, so a quick side note, but I remember when Casino Royale was the biggest movie in the world, and the Fast and the Furious movie that followed that. I just remember the trailer was like this parkour scene, and every single action film wanted to be like parkour, like in Casino
That
Royale.
opening of Casino Royale, yeah.
And then, I feel like it's a similar thing, with the exception of like the Marvel machine. Action films kind of like, we need to do stunts and gun fu and UFC takedowns, because if Keanu can do it, we all need to do it. And I'm here for it. Like, practical stunts, practical effects.
Yeah.
It's, much like duck fat on potatoes, according to the villain from John Wick 2, makes all the difference.
But we have these two other big action franchises still going that I don't think really copy it. So, like, obviously Fast and the Furious.
Yep.
Very CGI, very car based, but they're not like John Wick.
It's about family.
It's about family.
Yeah. Didn't you watch the trailer before John Wick 4?
We didn't. I didn't get that.
Oh, you didn't? I think I've seen it in front of every movie I've seen recently.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Mission Impossible series, which I like. It's, I don't know, it's always been like a spy espionage action movie, but big on stunts, but not so much. There's no gun fu in those movies.
Yeah, that's kind of the other hand. Like, you look at Mission Impossible 1, it's not stunts, it's a spy.
No,
film.
it's not. Yeah.
And then you look at Mission Impossible Fallout, and it is 100% stunts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of gone in a similar direction. But you're right, it's not doing gun fu, but it's looking at kind of the context, I guess, and like what makes people like audibly gasp. Like Tom Cruise jumping out of a helicopter and landing in an airplane and flying that into the sun. That makes people gasp. So, all right, look, we'll move on though. So, until we'll be here all night if I keep going on about it. But look, before getting into chapter 4 specifically, here's a really quick rehash. In John Wick number 1, the titular anti-hero is living as a retired widower left with a dog as a gift from his late motivation/wife. He is forced to return to the fold, though, when his cute dog is killed and his car is stolen, and he goes on a quest to a blood-soaked and strangely rule-bound revenge. In chapter 2, John Wick, having dipped as much as a pinky back into the criminal underworld, he's called upon to honour his marker, a sacred duty that he rejects, and thus his home is destroyed. He honours this marker by killing 3,000 people, but is betrayed and kills 3,000 more, getting his revenge again, but breaking the rules in the process and becoming excommunicado. In chapter 3, John, I literally can survive any injury known to man or god Wick, with a global bounty on his head by the Arthurian-sounding high table, goes on a globetrotting adventure, killing 72,000 more people as he seeks a way to get out of this criminal life and return to being a retiree who eats cereal. After meeting a magic man in the desert and mutilating his hand, he returns to New York and is shot off the roof by Winston in a faux act of betrayal/loyalty to appease the high table and to get them to crawl down out of everyone's asses. Did I miss anything about that original trilogy? Or is that pretty concise?
From what I remember of it, it's correct.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
The plots don't matter. It's all set pieces. And so, look, in describing chapter 4, it's kind of nonsensical, but here it is. Picking up after number 3, John Wick has recovered and has punched enough training boards for the next 10 films, so he tries to escape the high table for good, but in the process learns the only way to do this is by challenging some snotty Frenchman to a duel.
He kills the Elder too. That's a very important plot point from John Wick 3 that happens in the blink of an eye. The start.
There's the whole desert chase scene on the horse.
You're right. Sorry, I forgot. I already mentioned one magic man. I forgot to put him back in. You're right. Straight away, rules are out the door.
Yeah. So, I've got a hot take for you, Cone.
If you make me cry on this podcast, so help me God.
Like, we've been talking about, the MCU and how that's dwindling and all these series are failing. Man, was this like a Top Gun Maverick movie for me? I fucking loved this film so much. Like, the more I've gotten away from it, even, I'm just like, oh shit, I need to watch that again. I'm like, I know it's 3 hours. I totally want to go back and watch it this weekend. But it made me even be like, 2 and 3 were bad. They were doing it wrong. This does it the right way, because I agree. This one, it goes absurd, but it does it in the right way where it's just like, oh, I don't know what the thing was, but Grant will tell you because we were sitting next to each other, sharing popcorn and Skittles, and watching this film together, and it was like electric in the cinema, where it was kind of like a Marvel like opening night where people were clapping, people were cheering, everyone was grimacing at like dudes landing on the steps on their head, and like people were like oh, and like going off, like, and just the amount, like the kills in this. There's so many scenes where people just like were cracking up laughing, like, oh my god, this is ridiculous what we're seeing. And then the next scene, it'd be so cool that everyone is just like, you could just hear them be like, oh shit, this is so cool. Like, what are we watching? This is great. And honestly, I want to go watch it again this weekend because I had a ball watching it. Yeah. And this is John Wick to me, where I'm like, this was fun. It got away from one and being like, it got ridiculous like the others. But there was something different about this one where I was just so on board for the ride, where I was like, I'm here for this. I'm here for all of this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it dipped into the world building. We meet some new characters, Marquis and others, and we get this information about how he can have a duel to get his freedom and all this stuff. Like, there's world building there, but it doesn't feel weird and convoluted like I felt 2 and 3 were. Like, there was something about 2 and 3 that just felt bad to me.
This felt like a lack of
in the world building.
It was just like there are no rules, like you said, Conan. There are no rules, so it's just basically a killing fest of him trying to get back to this Frenchman that blew up the Continental. That's easy, and it's like, okay, it's not like, oh no, but you stepped 10 paces this way, which means you can't technically do this, or you have to give me 6 coins in my left pocket.
There was very few currencies in this film.
Yes.
Look, I do feel like this film can run because the earlier ones walked. That's true.
Maybe,
because I think you know all the rules already. You don't have to worry as much about it. But
I've forgotten all the rules. I've forgotten every rule.
Yeah.
But in terms of the internal logic of the film, you don't need to be like, why is there a hotel in every country? Like, we know already. All of that stuff's built. You've got to suspend. You've already got a sort of a suspended disbelief. I'm curious. Did you guys see 2 and 3 in cinemas, or were they also like at home watches?
I watched them for this podcast.
Okay.
So you watched them at home. I watched 2 and 3 in cinemas. I did.
Did
so
you?
Your logic's the other way. I definitely watched 3.
So you don't even sound like you're convincing yourself.
I definitely watched 3 because I remember the library scene and him killing the dude with the library book and him like getting patched up again and the clock at the start of the movie and stuff like that. I do remember that in the cinema. 2, maybe not. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, okay. But
because there is a recurring theme on this podcast that movies that we see at the movies are better. Grant, I feel like every time you've watched a movie you've been like, I didn't like the other ones, but this one at the cinema was awesome.
I 100% know this is true. Like, this was true with Scream. This was true with James Bond.
And it's
probably true here. Like, I would have had probably a higher opinion of those movies if I'd seen them in the cinema. But this is the world we live in, where I didn't see them in the cinema.
Yeah. Well, that's true. In a lot of ways, this movie does feel like it's kind of both a sequel and a greatest hits. Like, all the best parts of the original films are here, but they're bigger, they're more interesting. Like, it's got the nightclub scene, it's got a dog, it's got car chases, it's got ninjas, it's got rules. But you're right, it doesn't get as bloated as some of the other ones do. It takes, like, making a sequel is hard because you need to sort of do the same thing, but you need to be different enough. And for my money, John Wick does them all incredibly well. But this one, is astounding because of those exact reasons. It knows its strengths are. And your opinion, Luke, I think is the same as sort of the general consensus. Like, everyone seems to like this movie. Even people who weren't necessarily the biggest fans of the earlier ones, be they fans of 1 or fans more of 2. Everyone's just like, this is it. Like, this is cinema.
Oh,
and
it was so good, man. Like, I can't gush about it. Like,
the Osaka segment, like that whole scene is so good. Like, I love, they're just constantly throwing new shit at you. Like, here's this SWAT team with shinobi masks on. Bring in the sumos. Like, there's so many good moments. And the introduction of like bows and arrows and dudes getting pinned to walls and then shot was so freaking awesome. Like,
the dude's leg
that
pinned
segment
and then fallen.
Yes, it was so good. And the whole cinema was cheering. Like, that's where it really kicked off. Yeah. And I was just there for it, man. That Osaka is my favorite part of this whole movie, I think.
Yeah, when I saw this, I went by myself, but I saw it in VMAX, a big screen, great sound. There was one guy like 2 seats behind me who was really like every time there was an ad, he's like, "Let's get on with the film already." And it was it was really strange. I'm like, he was also here, but this was at 10:30 in the morning as well, so it was a strange screening. But same deal. Like as soon as it started, I was laughing, I was cackling at parts. Everyone was having fun.
Yeah.
It was
Oh.
it was something. Yeah, it was something magical.
Yeah, we're all united, man. Like, it's jumping ahead in the film, and obviously we're just going to talk about the film. We don't need to break it down scene by
Oh
scene.
no,
but like,
I've broken down. I've
oh,
broken down a
okay.
little bit, but yeah.
I just want to say, like, I had this moment that was like sort of like an out of body experience during the bird's eye view scene, like where it's like
Oh yeah,
top
Hotline
down
Miami.
view, Hotline Miami. John Wick for like a solid like 5 minutes. It felt like, and there's like the incendiary rounds, and it's like people getting lit on fire by these shotgun rounds. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what like this is could be like a video game movie, and I'm like, I want to play this game like this. I'm like, this is so damn cool, and just those shotgun rounds, man, would just added so much to that scene as well.
Yeah,
This is so cool.
Such a good choice. So genius. Like, it worked so well.
I had the same thought. I was like, this is the best video game adaptation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we don't need to adapt actual video games. Let's just have their logic. Like, though those shotgun scenes, the Spitfires, whatever they are, I remember like just I was watching it. Like, this is the greatest thing put to film.
I was so happy.
It speaks to a bigger point about why these films are so good. Is like it just looks amazing. Like the lighting is all dim and blue, but it's very clear. It's really concise.
Yeah.
And then you've got these bursts of like red and white, and it's just like it looks amazing. Like it's like looking at fireworks. It's beautiful. It's entrancing.
I think this whole film looks beautiful. Like throughout the whole film, I was like, the cinematography is nice. I was like so many scenes are giving me like Blade Runner vibes, where it's just like the use of color and stuff like that. Obviously, there's the nightclub, there's Osaka, everything. I was just like, there's so many cool shots. Like it looks really, really cool. And
like sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, there's so many good set pieces that make zero sense. Like, there's no real world application for the Hall of Glass in Osaka. It doesn't really make any sense. There's no real world application for the weird flooded nightclub. Like, all these places don't make that much sense, but they're so freaking cool and they work so well in this movie. Like, it's really, really good.
Well, it's like in France, they have their sort of discussion of the terms of the duel on top of that big staircase looking over the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
It's like this would be a packed tourist destination, but it's just empty and there's no one there. It's like, it makes no sense, but it's amazing. Like,
would you go there if you heard 1,000 rounds fired on the staircase? Like,
no, but I don't know. Yes, at least so much. But yeah, like the lighting is just everything is really well lit as well. Everything is clear. Like you get great visual sort of language with the opening scene. You got Keanu all in black, and it's just a desert. It's just this orange desert, and it's like it's good. It's good contrast. It says a lot. Like there's no because we're living in the age as well where you've had like the Game of Thrones episodes that are poorly lit.
Yeah.
Just every film kind of has a similar color palette. Everything when it's CGI looks a bit dull, and it's so refreshing to have this where they're just like this scene takes place in a city that's green. It all just glows green for some reason. And it's like, I'm there. I'm in.
Yeah. I love there's a real restrained use of slow-mo as well. Like the action is so clear without needing the slow-mo. And it just makes it feel so much smoother and so much better. Like you watch a Marvel movie and every action sequence slowed down so you can see Spider-Man dodging the blades that are whirling at him and stuff like this. And like there's a spectacle to that too, but there's something about this that just makes it feel so real and grounded while he's shooting incendiary rounds from a bird's eye view. Like it's still far out, but it makes it feel so much more grounded.
Yeah, that's always been the strength. Like it's grounded in a world of reality, even though the world's so unreal. Like Keanu's always taken dudes down by jumping on them. And it's like, that's realistic. And it all just sort of fits to it. Oh, you're right. There's that one part in the club he's walking through. It slows right down as he's just like walking through the crowd. And I had a moment. I was like, oh no, they're going to do a slow-mo fight. This isn't good. But they didn't. They didn't.
It's just like a cool shot of people dancing. It's slow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love how the nightclubs never stop for the violence. They just
No, man, they are drugged out of their mind.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no one is sober at a dance club like that with waterfalls, man.
fair enough. Fair enough.
No.
All right. Well, look, there's basically 6 main scenes. And so I figure rather than just sort of trying to figure out how, because I think we all loved everything about it. So
Yeah.
I want to do it justice. So I'm going to just go through them and we'll talk about our thoughts there. So the first one is the opening. You've got the desert. He kills the elder.
Good.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I care to watch the rest of this movie. I was like, if this is what we're gonna get, awkward horse chases, I might go home.
I'll say you weren't into it.
Didn't do anything for me. No.
No, I think
My ears
out
were
of
still
the
ringing
whole-
from the punching. Like,
I mine is still ringing, but
yeah.
I feel like when I don't know, because obviously in 3 we get him on a horse down the street, like in the
Yep.
city, and that was a cool visual.
It's
It doesn't do anything for me personally, and it was just like at the start of this film when you were talking about him killing the elder at the start, I was like, oh, that's right, that was this film. That was at the start of this.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like before the journey began, and it was like, but I feel like it's this way to do like a clean slate almost, like all this stuff about the elder and he's the wise one and nobody can touch him. John Wick just killed him, so now that we're off to the races, let's go. So that was fine, and we had to see how he got there out in the middle of the desert again. Didn't have to walk like he did in the last one. But
yeah. No, you're right. It's totally like the instigating it, the igniting incident. Can't remember the phrase. But yeah, it's just like it happens in the first 10 minutes. It's like he rides in, kills the dudes, kills the elder, and it is like, oh wow, this is balls to the wall, because the last film there was a lot of rules and a lot of stuff discussed about it, and this is just like, nah, this is just a killing spree.
yeah,
I think it does a good job expanding the mythology. Like the elder gets replaced, and he talks at length, about I'll just get replaced as well. Like this isn't something you can kill your way out of.
Yeah.
And that's just again interesting for this, for why these movies are here. It's like, why do we need another John Wick film? It's like because he's just going to keep having people to kill as long as he's in this world.
Yeah.
So you understand, even the elder, the magical man of the desert, will just come back. So he's got to do something dramatic. Like it's really effective, and it's short, it's concise, it's nice.
Yeah.
So next up, we got the setup basically. You got Winston and I don't know if it's Charon or Sharon, but
I always referred to it as Sharon, but they say
I always
Sharon.
said Charon, but
yeah, I think they say, what do they say?
Charon?
Sharon.
They say Charon. Okay. Yeah, I always thought
Lance
it was
Reddick.
yeah. So let's do it. Winston and Lance Reddick visit the marquee, and Lance Reddick gets shot here.
Yeah.
And you also get some other things. This is where I'm just trying. I want to mention these before I talk about Lance Reddick. This is where we get introduced to Kane as well. So Donnie Yen, very famous figure in martial arts cinema, plays a blind man named Kane.
Yep.
We get Ned Kelly's final words. Shout out for Australia, which is pretty cool.
I was pumped with that. I was like, oh yeah.
Like, you're such a bogan. Stop saying that. It's a real bogan phrase in Australia.
Yeah, I had that phrase. I'm like,
it's stickers on cars everywhere.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more tattoos of it now, I think I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, Lance Reddick's death. So generally when an actor dies, a shadow is cast over the film, or it's not cast, but it lingers at least. There's always a sense of sadness, and Chadwick Boseman's the obvious example that after he died, an entire film had to be rewritten, redone. A whole Hollywood production company sort of had to shift gears in a way for it.
The Dark Knight, even though they didn't change, but it had, you can't watch that film. And I remember everyone watched that film thinking about Heath Ledger and what his performance was going to be like. And then at the end of it being like, well, that's the end of that character. Like that's, the last we'll see of that. So,
and there was controversy with that. Like, would they release it? Would they show scenes of him being dead? Because is that in bad taste? Who knows?
Yeah.
I guess so a guy at work, I don't know if he listens to the podcast still, but he raised an interesting conspiracy theory, at least, about whether or not it was known that Lance Reddick was ill. Because his role in this, if you remember in number 3, he has a big role. He
helps John Wick take everyone down.
Exactly. He becomes one of the stars. He becomes like an action hero. He's got a lot to work with.
Hmm.
And so it really feels like they were building towards Lance Reddick being a big character in this. and then we get him in one scene. And in a way, like you said earlier, Ron, it's very tasteful because it is kind of like, his death in this fits on, and his death, and so it's like, okay, there's no sort of, we don't have to edit anything, we don't have to try to explain it away later. It's like it's fitting. But
Yeah.
did you guys find it did you find it strange at all that Karan's killed so quickly, or?
I mean, everything we've heard about it is that it's been natural causes, from what I can see.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously with Chadwick, it feels like nobody knew other than like, obviously the people that worked with him knew, but like it didn't leak. It was like shocking when it was announced that he'd passed away. We were like, what? He had cancer for the last 3 years? Nobody knew that. Nothing's come out about Lance Reddick. I would have assumed if he was ill, it would have come out by now, that it would have been announced. But it is, it sounds really bad. It's like, it seems too good to be, as in like it worked out fine in the film. You know what I mean? Like they filmed this touching finale for that character. It's not like he ends on a cliffhanger where he's like, I'll see you at the Continental TV show, like, and set that up or anything for them. But to write that character off how they do in one of the first scenes of this film with the Continental TV series coming out, you would have thought when they lit that they would have had Lance Reddick in mind, because he's so synonymous with the Continental, I feel like. But yeah, I don't know. It's strange timing.
It's an interesting conspiracy theory. Part of me thinks that he was a good character to kill off to raise the stakes a bit, make it a bit more personal.
Yep.
Like who else? Like they can't kill another dog. Who else do they kill off to kind of raise the stakes? Yeah. Like he works well in that sacrificial role, I guess. He's a character we all know, we all care about him. Losing him is a bit of a shock, and maybe his real life death made that a little less shocking. I don't know, but yeah, it was
because there's also the scene we get later where they visit his funeral, and it feels very kind of like, oh wow, this is very solemn. This is in really good taste almost, and it's it's snowing there. It almost feels, and this film was delayed for a long while. And so it's like, was there reshoots? Was there rewrites of this? Were they reworking it all to sort of maneuver this? I don't know. It's
surely not, because he hadn't died. You'd think it's putting a lot for them to guess, or like to know when he was going to pass. Like he passed the week before a film. It feels weird to do reshoots and stuff like that before an actor's passed to like pay tribute. That seems almost really in bad taste to be like, let's film this stuff for when our good friend Lance dies. That it's this touching thing in the film, But
I see there being something to like. He was battling something, or he was getting unhealthier, and they're like, look, and he's like, look, I don't want to be the action star of 4 like I was going to be. I want to kind of get out of this because I can't do it. And they're like, all right, cool, we'll do something. Like I see there being a world where that happens.
Yeah.
And like to the Chadwick point, like I remember there was a photo that came out long before he died where he looked very gaunt. Yeah. And there was all this stuff like, oh, he's, something's wrong with him, or they're like, oh, is he doing drugs? And as the internet does, it just started going on with crap. Yeah. And then when it came out he died of cancer, it was like everyone's like, oh, that's what it was. Like it kind of all fell into place. Whereas with Lance Reddick, at least, there was an interview of him pretty close, like not long before his death, and he looks absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how does a 60-year, like, what does natural causes mean for a 60-year-old? It's just very strange.
Dude was healthy, man. Like, we saw him in The Wire. Dude was in better shape than I will ever be.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's fascinating. Like, it almost seems serendipitous that they do it in here. And I'm like, and look, I don't know if this is in bad taste for me to harp on about it, but I just find it really weird that we don't have any information and it's all tied up. But at the end of the day, RIP. Like he was a real talent, and it will be sad to see this franchise, if the franchise continues without him.
Yeah.
Look, we meet the Marquis in this scene as well, Bill Skarsgård.
I didn't know he was going to be in this.
No, neither did I, and I loved him in this movie. He's so good. His weird accent does something for me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I heard an interview with him and with Stahelski. He was saying how he wanted him for a hero role originally. And he was like, no, I want to do the Marquis. I've got this great French Cajun accent I want to try. And he's just like, yeah, cool. All right, do your thing. It's like, perfect.
Yeah.
He's such a villain. It's great. Like this, like I don't know. I feel like it's finally like this great villain in a John Wick film. You know what I mean? Like 2 and 3. I know there was it the adjudicator or whatever it was that had come there and given attitude, but I was sitting next to Grant at the start of 4 when he kills like the person in the desert. I was like, okay, what happened at the end of 3? I was like, I'm actually forgotten now. I was like, which one was the end of 3 and which one was the end of 2? I was like, he got shot off the roof at the end of number 2. I was like, and then in number 3, and I was like, okay, wait, but no. And I literally pulled out my phone at the start of the movie and Googled. I was like, the ending of John Wick 3, and I was like, okay, so that was the one he got shot off the building. I was like, okay, so yeah.
If you'd done a rewatch before it, like
I know,
wouldn't have this problem.
But did it have any effect on you for the rest of the movie, Luke?
I was good to go after reading the top Google search. But this was a charismatic villain that every scene was like, okay, cool. You know, like he's back, and it's like added a lot of weight to stuff. You wanted to see him get his, you know, like
And I love that they gave him this plot armor too of like, you know, there's no point in killing me because I'll just appoint someone else and you won't be any further ahead. Like, he's got to do it the right way, so he's got to work his way up there. It's a lot of fun.
It is. It is. Yeah, no, like he's really good. Bill Skarsgård is like one of the best actors sort of working at the moment. He's a great villain because he's so sort of disarming. Like it's really wonderful. And look, after all that meet and greet, we get the Osaka Continental. Quite possibly, I know one of 3 standout scenes, in my opinion, but quite possibly the best. Like, I
just the amount of bullets being shot at people, and like it's just because obviously it's all deflecting off their helmets and off their reflective shirts and
the dude's
jackets.
suits. Everyone's using suits. It's awesome.
It's so fun.
Cool. It's basically just shooting them to just knock them back for a second. Like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I'm going to focus on trying to kill this dude. Boom, I got the shot off. And then, like, the amount of times he'd just be like, throw the handgun at the person.
Yeah, he threw a lot of guns.
Oh, it was great. It was great. It's just throw everything at them until they die.
It's my favorite Wick move. Just run out of bullets, throw a gun.
Yep.
So even the gun itself is a weapon. Like, it's not just the bullets that kill.
Yeah.
It felt like there was a lot of like, have we done bows yet? No, let's do bows. Have we done nunchucks yet? No, let's do nunchucks. Have we done blind monk trope? No, let's do that. Like
sumos? No.
Sumos? We haven't done sumos yet.
What are they going to... Then they were like, oh shit, we're out of ideas. Don't know what we're going to do in 5 now.
So again, in this interview I listened to, Stahelski's like, I have notebooks of just ideas. And he's like, I just have things titled like The Color Blue, Snow. Things where he just writes down ideas. And he's like, Japan, we've never done Japan. He's like, I wanted to do a nightclub with waterfalls in it. They're like, let's do that. So you're right. That's totally how they work. Yeah, they're just like, we haven't seen all this cool ninja stuff. Let's add that in. It's like when Akira comes out with a bow, and she just starts like she leaps on dude. She's like bow in one, bow in the face of the one she's on. Yeah, it's crazy. I was just like jaw to the floor. Like, what am I watching? How is this happening? It's astounding that they keep it fresh and they just keep making exciting ideas. Like Keanu with nunchucks against like I said, like Kabuki mask wearing like armored monsters. It's awesome. It's just so good.
It is. It's really good.
Keanu like using those nunchucks and just like wailing on someone's head over and over again. Man, people in the cinema were just like, oh my God. Like he's just like smacking until they finally died. It's like, okay.
For the most part, there was like a real lack of flash to them too. Like he wasn't standing there swinging them around, doing tricks on the ring. Like he's just whacking dudes with it. Like
clobbering them.
Exactly, yeah. It's nuts. Donnie Yen. Like, it's funny, this is the second time he's played a blind which I don't know what that says. Like, but it's one of the coolest tropes there is. Like, you know, the blind assassin who's the best assassin, except for, even though he's got this one.
Do you think it works as well in a world that's full of guns though? Like I like it in when it's like sword fighting or bow staffs or whatever. When you're shooting a gun, you kind of need to see.
I don't know. Look what you think.
I don't know. I feel like you do have to suspend your disbelief with this a lot more. Star Wars was fine, man. He had the Force, so it's like, okay, you're using the Force as well, but you're not Daredevil. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a bit weird with guns because you feel like honestly, someone from across the room could just boom shoot him. He's not going to duck out of the way in time.
No.
But it is what
Like,
it is.
I had this conversation with someone else as well. I feel like this is the one franchise where the suspension of disbelief, I feel like, just never runs out. And you can always be like, yeah, that's fine. John Wick can nunchuck like young 20-year-old athletic ninjas. Sure. I don't see why not. Like, and so this to me, the thing that I think works so well about this is they do a good job establishing that he's not just like psychic. He's not just kind of walking in and just dodges bullets. He walks in and he's tapping the walls of everything. He's constantly leaping behind cover. He puts the little doorbells around, so he's like...
He does that once, though. Like,
he does.
He manages every other fight without them. Why does he need them?
And, like, I do like that they do, like, the visual touch of, like, you know, he misses the glass when someone offers him a glass of drink. Both times he misses it. But he misses that, but he's executing people left, right, and center that, like, within his vicinity, so... Because
he always reacts. He hears where someone shoots from. He hears where that goes. It's like... That's fine. That makes sense.
Don't get me wrong. It's fun. I had fun with it. I'm picking nits with it, but I do think it doesn't work as well in a world of guns, like a gun-heavy world like this.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
All right.
The owner of the Continental, Hiroyuki Sanada, everything he's in, I love. Like, he's really cool. Everything I've ever seen him in, I've really liked his presence. He's got this really like samurai, like wisdom,
he plays like the wizened samurai. It's perfect.
He's great.
He's the perfect casting for this.
Yeah. We also get introduced to Mr. Nobody, to the tracker,
who is awesome.
He's cool.
Nobody. Yeah.
I spent the whole film being like, is that John David Washington? Am I right in that?
I had the same thought. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, but it's not, is it? But it is. Yeah, it's not. It's a relatively unknown, I think, or he was a Disney star or something. I thought I read, but he's really good.
Shamir Anderson.
Yeah,
Anderson. He's not really well known.
A whole bunch of stuff I've never heard of.
Yeah, like.
Anyway,
yeah, a lot of films.
We're all just looking through his IMDb.
Like, he was in, I don't know, Camp Rock 2, Degrassi.
Yeah.
So, so pretty sweet. Anyway, he's really good. He's a nice touch to the he complements the perfectly sort of, like all the guys in suits and the ultimate mercenaries, having this dude with a backpack and dog. And like he's a gunslinger, he's got the shotgun and the revolver. It's just it's a cool, silly element to add in. Like, you got samurais, you got super soldiers, and you got this dude.
Emotional support animal.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, that's really good. Look, next scene you got. You also got sort of the duel, the samurai duel between Sonata and Donnie Yen here.
Which is really cool.
Really good.
Really good. Yeah.
I just love a good samurai duel in any movie, no matter when it's necessary.
Absolutely.
All right. Look, after this, you got Karen's grave and the Rosca Roma. So you got he goes back to the church, and he's trying to get his ticket untorn so he can get his family crest, so he can declare a duel. I fucking love the mythology.
This is the 2 and 3 stuff seeping in.
It's so good.
It was a slow middle act, but it was manageable. You're right.
I'm all about it. And then you got the great video game side quest where she's like, you need to go kill this guy so you can get your objective done.
So I wanted to bring this up earlier. Because this movie's like a video game, right? Like, in so many ways, it's just like the plot of a video game. Like, she describes this thing of like, well, I'll do you a favor, but first you got to go and do this for me. And then 100%, like, this dude is like the most video game boss looking motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. He shows up and I'm just like, okay, cool. This is the boss. Like, this is the boss of this level. This is the boss. Like, this is so cool. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Natalie Tenner, back. I haven't seen her for a while. Yeah, Osha. From Harry Potter. She's in Harry Potter as well.
Oh, is she? I don't like Harry Potter.
Yeah. True.
Can't wait to not do those films.
Oh, they're coming, boy.
Oh, God. You get a lot of conversations in this scene, in this sort of section about legacy. Like, they talk about how Corona's a friend, and John's, in this part, he's like, I want loving husband on my grave.
Yeah.
I think this film, ironically, has a lot of character work and has a lot of philosophy to talk about of like what is the legacy of this. What's the fallout of these actions? More than just, the early films are a lot more, are you doing this for love? Blah, blah, blah. This one's really like, what are you and what happens once you're gone? Like, when this ends, will it be worth anything? Like, who are you after that fact? Who are you without the love of killing? Like, it's actually, it was pretty fascinating in my mind.
The parallel between him getting out of this life and also getting out of this life, like actually dying, like there's some fun parallels there, and I think they play with it well. And like there's that nice moment where he's like, are you saying goodbye? And he's like, no, I'm saying hello to his wife. And he's like, do you think she can hear you? And he's like, no, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I'm wrong. That's a pretty nice line. Like, yeah.
I'll be honest, that was the moment I went to the bathroom because 2 hours and 40 minutes. 2 hours and 40 minutes. I couldn't do it. I got into the cinema. I was like, I'm going to need a pee, and then I tried my best.
Oh, you missed the secret set piece with the best fight scenes, actually.
Yeah, I figured as
much. That little moment.
I just take a 40-minute dump.
Yeah.
The Berlin nightclub scene is freaking great.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
It's fun. Does go a bit long. I will be honest.
It's not my favorite action set piece in this movie,
but visually very cool. And like I touched on earlier, him finally killing the boss by dumping him on his head got like the biggest audible gasp in the cinema. Everyone was like, "Oh god!" Yeah. So
I love really the unkillable big guy. Like. Yes. Shoot him in the ass a bunch of times and stab him, and he's still going. Like,
who has awesome karate moves and can move around like a ninja.
He can move his leg, like he can swing his foot over Keanu's head. That's impressive. Because he was played by this big stunt man. I didn't realize, like Scott Adkins or something. Like, very really successful guy. So it makes sense. He's put a fat suit on him and he can move like a ninja. Yeah. Like you're right. The whole duel leading up to this, the poker game leading up to this, kind of goes on for a little bit. And he's revealing the cards, and it's like, okay.
Like he's going to cheat. It's pretty obvious. Like this is kind of stupid.
20 minutes before he reveals he cheated.
You can cut some of that for sure, but I don't. Just something about nightclubs. It's just they're just really like compelling for action to happen. Everyone around you and having to move in and out of people. It lends itself very well to.
It's a lot more fun when they continue to dance. Like, if everybody just started screaming and running, it'd be like, oh, well, now we're just on an empty dance floor having a fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks beautiful. You got the waterfalls. You've just got lots of great lights and strobes.
Like, it's literally like the two cool things is fighting in a nightclub with all like the rave music and the lights and fighting in the rain. And they were like, hey, let's just put it together. Let's just have it rain in the nightclub, basically.
We don't have time to do both.
How cool will that look?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was Klaus a Pokemon? He could only say, I am Klaus. He could only say his name. Is he a Pokemon? I have a theory that he's a Pokemon.
I have a theory that he's Santa Claus.
Maybe.
Is that?
Yeah.
I think it's going to tie into the MCU eventually, though. And he's going to be a Groot-esque.
Well, he did show up in the credits.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a weird choice. I didn't really get that, but I don't know. It sticks into it. All right. Once he gets his crest and his ticket and every other thing he needs, we have the Paris proper scene. So we've got the escape from the subway where the Bowery King returns and gives him a gun. We've got the Arc de Triomphe, which is just
my god,
spectacular.
Yeah.
So cool.
The Hotline Miami one shot, or it's actually inspired by a game called the Hong Kong Massacre,
which was inspired by Hotline.
Yeah, Miami, which looks identical to Hotline Miami, just more realistic.
Yeah,
and then the stair scene as well.
So
John Wick. John Wick chose that location. Why? Like, why not pick somewhere real close by? Where he's not going to have to fight through literally everyone.
I didn't think he would have to fight people. Where's all the rules going all of a sudden? Why is there so many rules in this of like, no fighting on these grounds? There's the rules are still. You have to be here at the time.
No, the rules are still there. They're like, this is the duel, but you have to get there. The bounty's still on John Wick's head the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, that's never gone away. And the Marquis just like, well, I can still maneuver in this. I can still try to stop him from getting there. Like, so that's fine. Don't question the internal logic. John Wick makes sense.
It's fine.
I think these places are close by though. Like you look at a map, or like the map they sort of have him tracking on, it looks close by. I think that's the idea though, is that he's like, I have to go 2 blocks.
It's
But we
hell
just,
to
Yeah.
get through.
that happens to be this because that church is, yeah, I don't know why you think that church up the top of stairs. Like it's not very smart.
He
But,
takes us to a boat ride. Like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
There's no advantage to
Yeah.
that location, and he picked it.
That yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Yeah, the roundabout was so cool. Like,
It was really cool.
Oh my god, just
It's like who thinks of that? Who's like, let's film a scene, an action scene in the middle of a roundabout that never stops.
there's a
It's just
shot.
nuts.
There's a dude that gets hit by a car and he's like doing a cartwheel in the air, and John Wick's like shooting him as he's falling down like the whole time, and it's just like this was another thing where everyone in the crowd was just cracking up, and the guy, like his main henchman with the sideburns, like everyone in the crowd was like, "Oh, why won't you die?" Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
finally,
Yeah.
like get him!" Like, "Oh, this
Yes.
guy's back again." Yeah, this was such a fun scene. Like, yeah, you have nobody showing back up again and popping
Yeah.
people off with the sniper
Yeah,
from
it's just
across the
nothing.
road.
Yeah, it was a fun mechanic of him like protecting him so that he could get the kill, but also trying to kill him. Like,
Yeah,
there's a
It's a-
nice thing.
It's a cool idea, yeah. Like people trying to game the system a little bit more.
yeah,
It's very clever. The scene's really good as well because it's obviously a lot of CG at work. Like you can't actually film on the Arc de Triomphe with 100 stunt drivers.
no,
So there's and there's a lot of like slowing down, editing things in to look a little bit better. But for the most part, at least, it's pretty seamless. Like there was never any moments I noticed at least that were like, oh, that looks fake. It all looked really good.
because it's all fast. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And then yeah, like we talked about it, but just to mention again, that one shot, it's just Spitfire guns.
So
and
good.
It's just amazing.
I'll remember that moment for like. I was like euphoric watching that. I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. I love this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good, so much fun. And then ending with nobody and him like fighting it out, sort of thing. And John Wick, surprise, surprise, loves dogs and chooses to save a dog. I love it. It's poetic.
Yeah. True to the character.
Yeah.
Checks out. Have you guys seen The Warriors?
No.
No.
So that the whole DJ who's like, "Hey boppers, here's where John Wick is."
Yeah.
It's like taken word for word from that movie.
Okay, true.
Which is really like Stahelski's noted this. He said like it was a huge influence for him. It's really funny. It is like it's not subtle at all. Even the shot of like a black woman's face, just the mouth, is like how they do it in the movie. It's like, yeah, this is literally from that. But it's
True.
it just adds again to the fun. Like
Yeah.
the little things like the fact that the operators are all working in the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Like it's just so dumb, but it's just so great. You can see the whole city.
They also have like a BMI requirement to work there and stuff like this. Like you must look like this. You must be this attractive to work
You must
here.
be
like
tattooed up to the gills.
Yeah.
And
There's a very specific type of person who gets the job.
yeah.
It's JB Hi-Fi in this world.
yeah, true. For EB Games, you're one of the telecallers. One thing I really I found funny in this was like the marquee after he throws like his mobile phone down. Then the next scene he's got like a cord phone, like he's got like one of the old fashioned phones on the phone because he threw his mobile in the last scene because he was annoyed. So just a little bit of comedy that I liked. Had it brought to him on a silver platter as well. It's like
actually,
so fancy, so extra. It's great.
It's good. Then there's the stairs, which that's kind of the stairs is the final action piece of the film. It's a really great like storytelling choice. This is a thought I had watching this movie. Like Stahelski is not just a great stuntman; he actually is a really good visual storyteller. Like having this as the final obstacle, where John has to literally climb uphill, and the whole thing's shot behind him, so he's constantly going up. He's always he's always on the back foot. I mean, it both allows, it allows a stuntman to do a lot of the stuff, and you can sort of tell there's someone who's a bit younger and a bit better at diving through stair rails.
Apparently, he did like 70% of the stunts himself.
Yeah, like he would have done. Yeah, he would have done most of it, but
probably not the stairs.
No, I think in the stairs was this. Like I read somebody else, a French dude doing all that. I'm like, that'd have to be. He rolls down like 1,000 of them.
Yeah,
but great final moment.
I like watching it. I felt exhausted. I'm like, oh, I just want to
I
get to
know,
the top of these stairs. I'm like, this movie's nearly 3 hours long.
Especially 2 hours.
This
40
is
minutes, and you're like,
excruciating,
come
but it
on.
works really well. Like I think I'm kind of supposed to feel that way about it, right? Like it's well done.
And it's such a thing when he gets kicked back down. It's such
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you serious?
like no.
again,
So close.
I was cackling. I was like, holy, it just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. You're
Longest
not
3
going.
minutes of your whole life.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
And
man.
then when he gets to the stairs, like he's barely walking up them. He's just exhausted. And then
Yeah.
he's like, everyone comes out. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great choice. And then, yeah, it ends. You've got the duel. So you've got them at the top on the most picturesque part of the world. Again, with no one around. It's got the showdown between Kane and John. You've got the great, the twist of fate there where Skarsgård's like, I want the coup de grace. And John Wick just goes, consequences, and then blows his head off.
Yeah.
And then you
shoot.
No, yeah, he's clever, smart guy. And then you got the ending and the post-credit scenes. I think it's a good choice not ending the movie with more action, like ending it with a quiet, sort of tense moment.
Yeah.
It
works.
Very clever. Mm.
So, Conan, I have 2 questions for you. Being the John Wick aficionado as you are.
Yes.
Number 1, do you love that this now has post-credit scenes? Like, are you super into it?
It's a true franchise now.
JCU, the JWU, sorry.
What would John Wick do?
So that part first. And now, I don't know if this is the end of John Wick, right? As it seems to imply. It felt, for me, I was very much like, oh, okay. Because in my head, I was like, I swear they've confirmed a John Wick 5. So when he was like dying, I was like, well, he's not actually dying. And then when it showed his tombstone, I was like, okay, but he's not actually dead, right? Because John Wick's 5's coming out. And then like it went to credits and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, if that actually is the end of that, I'm like, that kind of sucks. I feel like I've been robbed of like an emotional moment because I was like, they announced a John Wick 5, right? What's your knowledge of this?
All right. So to the post-credit scene, I think this does a post-credit scene properly. It's not just a stinger of like, it's not just a joke, or it's not just like, hey, we're going to introduce another villain. It's
I've
like
actually forgotten what the post-credit scene was. What was it?
Was the girl from Osaka killing the guy?
Yeah. So
killing the blind man.
Yeah, really fitting. Like it ends that. It's not necessary for the story, but it's fitting. Like it's kind of exactly what a post-credit scene should be. So what happened was John Wick and 4 and 5 were confirmed originally. They were going to be shot back to back. Lionsgate ended up, I think, Lionsgate or Stahelski and his crew decided not to some way through. I think during the whole COVID lockdown, they sort of rejiggered what they did. To be honest, I wonder if this film is kind of like bits of 4 and 5 because it's so long. It feels like there is 2 movies almost mashed together.
Apparently, the original cut of this was 4 hours,
which is crazy cool.
If this was 4 and 5, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think part of it might have been. I think what might have happened is they filmed a lot of 4 and 5. COVID hit, everything started changing. They rejiggered it because Stahelski said, basically, what's confirmed is Stahelski said they're done for the time. He's like, we're not ruling it out. Keanu has said he's happy to do it as long as Lionsgate wants to keep making them. But Stahelski said that him and Keanu are both like, look, we're happy with where we are. If we get an idea for a 5th, we'll do it. But we think this is a good conclusion. So 5 is no longer confirmed. It's kind of in development.
Damn. I wish I would have cried.
Yeah. I know. I was the same. I was like, how's it going to lead to the 5th one? But yeah, so this could be the end. I think that's why they've done this choice. They've effectively been like, it could end here, or they could be like, John Wick's. Yeah, this is just John Wick's excuse to get out. Because I think part of it as well, like, so Keanu's 60 years old now. I don't know how much he can keep going as this. And they're going to have things like Stahelski's also got other commitments. He's making Ghost of Tsushima and something
He's
else.
He's got a hell of a resume coming up. Like,
dude.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
he's also doing the Rainbow Six movie. Get excited about that.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm so excited because with this movie, I'm like, he's not just a good stuntman. He's a great director. He knows how to actually make movies. Like, yeah, good stuff's coming. So I think all of them are like, look, we've got a lot of stuff we want to do otherwise. But it's neither confirmed nor denied. There's nothing in the works at the moment, but it could go either way. If in this interview I listened to, he was like, if we get a good idea for something we want to do, we'll do it. But it's and I think I can only imagine Lionsgate will push really hard though. I can imagine they will be like,
Yeah, surely they're going to be driving some money up to his
after
doorstep.
the success of this.
yeah, exactly.
So-
Like this is going to go places. Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Conan? If this is the end,
I like on one hand I'm sad. On one hand I want John Wick every year. I just want to have a more. I love this franchise so much. I want to have these movies over and over again. But at the same time, this was like coming out of like this was a near perfect movie in so many ways. Like this movie is phenomenal. This is like I said, the fact that it's not just a continuation. It is like the greatest hits. I'm like this is kind of where you should end this because it's just like we've seen everything John Wick does well, and we've seen it in its almost perfect form.
yeah,
Like because all you can really do from here is have the actual high table. And then I'm like, how do you go bigger? How do you go bigger than fire breathing shotguns? Like, how do you go bigger than
do
like?
we
I think they're the guys who can do it though. Like they've
do we
proved
take
it,
down
proved
the
it
high
4
table?
times already.
So like, I just think if John Wick 5 is announced, I'll be catatonic until it comes out because I'm so excited. Like, but I'm okay with the fact that if this is the end, I'm like, this is a good way to end it, and it leaves it's a nice ending. As like whether or not he lives or dies doesn't matter. He's out. He's out of the life.
Apparently, Ballerina is a prequel, so he can be a cameo in that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I see that future. I see a world where there's lots of John Wick movies and Keanu's like in there somewhere. And like he has
Weaving in there.
he has one scene or they like stuff like that. I see that happening.
Yeah.
Because I truly don't see how he can keep upping what he does physically. Like
No.
This isn't Mission Impossible where it's like he's flying a plane, which is impressive. What Keanu does here is like it takes a toll. And there's only so many times you can get beaten and broken and flip over things until eventually he has a fall and he's like, well, I've broken all my bones.
That's my final fall.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
I don't know. What did you guys think? Are you guys happy that this is possibly done?
I felt like there was no way it was done. I thought surely there's more. Like this ending doesn't quite sit right. Like it doesn't quite feel concluded. I don't know if it's because the high table's still out there pulling the strings. Not sure.
Oh.
And is that the thing? In this universe, is the high table Thanos, or is the high table something else that just can't be toppled? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it could go either way.
Ballerina should be really good. I can't picture Ana de Armas like doing John Wick's moves and.
Look at the start of the most recent James Bond movie.
No Time to Die.
No,
She does exactly
I'm talking about how John Wick does it kind of unco. Everything's kind of like how he ducks and weaves and he's pulling up his jacket and it's
she'll be a lot more precise.
She'll look cool doing it.
Yeah,
definitely. But
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Continental. I'm excited for all of it. Do you guys have any other thoughts?
I did like, even though I forgot the post credits now, I totally called it to Grana as we were sitting there during the credits. I was like, either it'll be something that John Wick's still alive, or it'll be that girl getting revenge on Kane.
Look at you.
And then as soon as it started and Kane was there, I was like, he's gonna die. I was like, oh no.
We didn't talk about the knife in the tracker's hand. That moment was just like a big groan moment in our cinema. So he stabs him in the hand. He's like, you can either pull the knife out or you can pull the hand out. And he pulls his hand through it.
It was brutal. Yeah,
it was a good moment.
It was a good moment. Yeah, no, like there's lots here that I had to skimp over. I mean, there's a great scene where Winston's just walking through the museum, and it's like 4 minutes long of just walking through paintings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is like.
We chuckled at that, I feel like, because it was just like, it's just footsteps for like 2 minutes. Like,
and like, I think it adds a lot to the character and the room. But but you're right, that scene, with the knife in the hand is pretty gross.
Yeah.
All right, well, cool.
Continental's going to get rebuilt. It was kind of sad to see it destroyed, but yeah.
Yeah, how is that not a domestic terror attack?
Like, I know, like that was not a small explosion, right? Like
no.
Building is toppled.
He got city permits like a couple months prior to that.
Yeah. What I'm hoping for is in the next John Wick film, New York is just like got this shortage of assassins and employees. Because you know how all assassins have like day jobs? They're just like there's a huge labor shortage everywhere. There's no taxi drivers. There's no cooks.
Yeah.
And so then there's this influx of Canadian assassins who have to come down and kind of take over the city. That's what I want.
Led by Ryan Reynolds.
Maybe. Bring him into it, sure. All right. Well, that was John Wick Chapter 4. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. If you love seeing John Wick in movie form, there's also a book about John Wick. It's the book I wrote. It's called The Taste of Iron. I wrote, so get all your action you need there for that. We also have another podcast if you enjoy listening to us. It's called currently Bonus XP. That could be changed soon, so keep an eye and an ear out. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. Follow us where you listen to this or get your podcasts. Next week, we are doing the Super Mario Brothers ×2. Both the original and the much anticipated. Is it a remake? Let's call it a remake.
Maybe. Don't think those two movies will be related in any way, but no. I'm looking forward to watching the 80s one again. I have hopes for the new one.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching the new one.
Look, it's an hour and a half at least. It'll be a quick in and out.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.
Wahoo!
See ya.